Women of Reddit, what was the smoothest way you were asked out? I was at a party with a friend of mine when this guy comes over with a deck of cards. He insisted on showing my friend his party trick and proceeded to have her choose a card at random. She grabbed the card and kept its identity to herself, and he placed it back in the deck and shuffled it. He started laying down cards and ended when he reached 10. He looked up at her and said, "Do you notice anything interesting about these cards I laid down?" She shook her head, and he then looks her directly in the eyes and says, "It's my number. Call me." He then proceeded to give her an over-exaggerated wink, shot her some finger guns, and disappeared into the crowd of the party. At university, my guy friend saw that I was having a bad day in one of our morning classes. He came and sat down next to me and said, "You look like you could use a pick-me-up. How about I pick you up at 7? He escaped the friend zone that night and we ended up dating for a year. Edit. In grade 8, a guy friend of mine came to my door with a plastic watering can. He opened with, "John told me that you have to make it memorable when you ask someone out. So I brought you a watering can. Super cute. I definitely will always remember." I said yes. We dated for 2 weeks and then both concluded we are better as friends. But it was still the best way I've ever been asked out. I met a guy when I was like 16 at a convention. We happened to be in the same area and really hit it off talking about art and drawing. We started doodling each other while still chatting away, and exchanged portraits when it came time to part ways. He signed his drawing of me with his phone number. For 2 nerds at an cosplay convention. That was pretty damn smooth. Edit. In retrospect, doodling was probably not the best word to describe what we were doing. Doodling each other. That's how I ended up with 3 kids. I was bartending. A customer I had a few good conversations with asked me what time my shift ended. And I told him 2 AM. He leaned back and said, "Can I order a coffee? I'm going to need it if I want to stay up until 2 AM. Note: I don't want to be harsh, but bartenders are paid to be nice to you. Be 105% sure someone's into you before you pull a move like this." He literally ran after me. We had a class together and started talking about 2 weeks before it ended. I thought he was cute as hell but didn't think he felt the same way. He and his buddy lived the same way I did, and on the last day of class, they walked home with me but split paths after a few blocks. So I'm walking and kinda gushing to a friend via text about him, and I hear someone running and it's him. He tells me that he'd be a massive idiot unless he gets my phone number because he thinks I'm super cute. We've been together for 3 years. Summer of sophomore year. There was an ice cream store I would go to religiously every other day. They had a huge selection of flavors that rotated frequently. And the guy that worked there could predict what I'd order because it'd always have to be whatever's new. It got to the point where I didn't even have to order. I'd just walk in and he'd have a cone ready for me by the time I reached the register. But we never really talked outside of ice cream orders. Finally, one day he says, "You really like ice cream?" Me. Haha, yeah. I do. Him. "Do you also like pizza and a movie?" Maybe. "Saturday?" Me. "Actually, my friend Naomi and I are going." Friend elbows me hard and conspicuously, "Not going anywhere." "See you Sat?" Him. "Cool. I'll see you here. Usual time." Then he gave my friend double scoop on the house. That's a great wing, woman. Reward deserved. One Saturday morning there was a knock on my door. I opened it and there was a young guy my age with a construction vest in. He stared at me for a couple seconds and I said, "Can I help you?" "Hello. We are doing some work on the pipes on this street." He was basically telling me I couldn't flush the toilet for a couple hours while they did the work. A couple hours later, they were done and gone. I had to run some errands so I went to leave. Stuck in the door was a note asking me out. It was signed "The guy who told you not to flush." Maybe not the smoothest, but one of the cutest ways I have been asked out. One time my dad said you better not flush that goddamn toilet and I didn't hear him, so I flushed it anyways. Boy was he mad. He called me sh*t boy and glued lemon peels to my neck. I'm a guy. A girl said this to me while I was wearing a suit. Hey, nice suit. It looks like it needs a tailor though. By the way, my name is Taylor. Walking through a crowded train station, my eyes met with a man talking into his phone. Not looking away, he said, sorry. Something's come up. Snapped the phone shut. Remember when phones did that? Comma, and walked straight over and said hi. Hands down the smoothest thing ever. Edit. To answer some of your questions. Yes, this really did happen. It was a major London train station around 2002. I was heading home after drinks with friends. I can't remember what exactly he said after that, but we did go straight from there to a bar and snogged a bit at the end of the night. So it totally worked for him. We went out couple more times after that, but no. I didn't marry him. We met at college. We started hanging out after some friends introduced us and he told me about D&D. I'd never played, so he said he would teach me the rules. One night after we'd been hanging out for a few weeks, we started talking about relationships, as in past relationships. He told me about some ex-girlfriends, just briefly. I dated her for 6 months. Then her for 2 years type stuff. Then he asked me about my past relationships. Okay. So my backstory at that point was 0. 0 boyfriends. 0 guys kissed. No one had really seemed interested, and to be honest I was pretty insecure about it. To add to that, I had been on my first date ever about a month before I met him, and the guy bailed when he found out I'd never been kissed. But I wasn't the type to lie, so I told him. His response was a thoughtful HMMMMM, and then he leaned forward and kissed me. Then he said there. Problem solved. We've been together 15 years. Married 13 years and have 4 kids. And he's still the only guy I've ever kissed. You should have put my number in your phone. My boyfriend of 2 years. There was just something so cute about his momentary confident remark. Plus I stared at him for a good 2 minutes before I agreed while he looked around nervously. 2 minutes? That's a f***ing eternity in a situation like that. I was at a party with this really cute guy that I had been talking to for a bit. I didn't really know anyone there though, so I wanted to go home. And his friend was way too drunk, so he ended up giving us both a ride home. Anyway. He dropped me off first, which I was kind of bummed about because I was planning on making a move once his friend left, but I assumed he did it on purpose and wasn't into me. Not 10 minutes later I get a call to come downstairs as I'd left something in his car and he wanted to give it back to me. I get downstairs and ask what it was, and he just put his hands on my face and pulled me in for a kiss. He asked me out, but I had basically melted at that point, and I think I just nodded and grinned like a fool. Definitely the smoothest thing a guy has done. Would you like to go eat? Like a date? Yes. Okay. Flashback and... oh. Then I kissed her. Tongue? Yeah. He came into my chocolate shop every day for a week on his break. He worked at the shop next to mine, and we had fun random conversations about life. On Friday, he came in looking a bit disheveled and I was genuinely concerned. Asked him if everything was okay. He looked at me with the most vulnerable eyes and said, "Would you please let me take you on a date tonight?" It was so upfront and honest. He wasn't trying to conceal any emotions or hidden agendas. He gained massive points in my book for that one. Not asked out, but was on Skype with a friend playing Truth or Dare. He picked Dare and I said to call his crush and say he liked them. He then put me on hold. Called me again. Said I like you and went back to the first call. Him. I was wondering. Are you seeing anyone? Me. No. Him. Shocked. Would you like to go out to dinner with me? Me. Sure. When? Him. Dot. He didn't think it would get that far, haha. I was impressed with how upfront and respectful he was. First, asking if I was available to date. And second, asking if I would want to date him. Being single does not equate an automatic yes, so I appreciated his consideration. We are about to celebrate our 2-year anniversary. ME. Want a date? Huh? What? ME. Want a date? Huh? Asterisk. ME. Looks at box in hands. With dates in it I mean, do you want some dates? Holds box higher. Huh? Oh. Yeah, I'd love one. Panic clears her face. ME. Awesome. Me too. How about coffee on Friday at 12? Dot. At a party in college on a roof, a boy jumped down from a higher portion right next to me and said, "You're the most beautiful girl at this party. Can I have a cigarette?" And we were together for 2 years. But I think the best part was in the middle of our first date. He said, "Can I just get this out of the way?" And then bam. He kissed me. I found out later it was an Annie Hall reference. And he asked me out because he has a fetish for a certain type of nipple and could tell by looking at me I had that type. What a weird 2 years. Well, this wasn't exactly asking me out. But sorta. He and I were taking a ballroom dance class and danced together fairly frequently in class as well as a dance this place hosted. So I asked if he wanted to be dance partners and practice together. I went to his apartment one Saturday and we practiced a while. Then we got some dinner which he insisted on paying for and I made a mental note that it was definitely a date. We went back to his apartment to play Wii. This was 10 years ago when they were still pretty new. And he asked if I wanted to make a Mii. That was the smoothest way to tell me he was really into me. I had just met this guy at a friend's party and we instantly hit it off. I was telling him how I have a really bad relationship with coffee because it gives me the shits. At the end of the night he said, "I'm facing a dilemma here because I really want to ask you out but you can't drink coffee and you're not old enough to get a bear. So like, tea? Would you like to go out for tea?" Him. Bubble tea is gross. Me. Ugh, bubble tea is the worst. Him. We should go out for bubble tea. And not order bubble tea. Us. Taro bubble tea is f-king heaven on earth but I'm happy for you two tasteless swipes. I snagged my wife of 8 years with. I have an 8 telescope. Want to come over? Have some dinner and drinks. Look at the stars? She immediately drove from Texas to NM. She was genuinely surprised I was actually talking about an 8 telescope. I've been disappointing her ever since. Lol. Edit. Telescope has an 8 aperture. It's basically 8 inches diameter. It's made by Mead. And yes. It's f-king amazing. Edit 2. Holy shit. I think this is my highest voted comment. All about telescopes and dicks. Worked at a theme park a few years back with arcade games which you won tickets and turned them in for prizes. I was a manager and typically worked in the cash room away from the customers. How I liked it. However, this particular day the prize redemption host called out. And I was volunteered to be the one to replace them. Halfway into the shift. I have a couple of fairly attractive guys my age come and gander around at the prizes. I'm impatiently waiting. As I had been with every customer the entire shift, literally the most boring job in the entire park. One of the guys perks up. And says, "Well, not much here that I like. But I have to ask. How many tickets does it cost to take you on a date?" Not the most romantic. But I thought it was pretty clever. Definitely made my day. My boyfriend, now fiance registered sign, at the time was standing behind me restocking. We both worked and met at this job, did not find it as clever as me. 26 years ago a guy I vaguely knew from high school pulled alongside me on the freeway. In his 1980 something El Camino. And did the hand motion for roll down your window. Reluctantly I rolled my window down. And he shouted, "What's your phone number?" Traffic picked back up. I rolled up my window. Waved and smiled. And pulled away from him and zipped down the freeway. 3 weeks later I saw him again in traffic and he did the exact same thing. This time traffic didn't pick up and we were both right next to each other for several minutes. I didn't give him my number, but I took his. We've been married 25 years and have 3 kids. I was talking to a girl at the bar. She was with some friends. I'm pretty shy about asking someone out in front of others. When her friends weren't paying too much attention, I pulled out my phone, opened the phone app and just slid it over to her while we were talking. She entered her number and slid it back. The whole time we didn't break our conversation. When I was in college, I worked part-time at this coffee shop cafe. It was kind of like a mix of Starbucks and Panera, but it wasn't really as good as either. So one day I was at the register taking orders when a guy around my age comes up. I asked him, "What can I get you?" And he replied, "Your phone number, please." It was cheesy, and in the heat of the moment I'm afraid that I replied with something just as cheesy because I said, "I'm sorry, that's not on the menu." As a male, I've been told to never do that. There's no good response for the cashier, barista, waitress. Either she says no and rejects you publicly, or she can't say yes because it's unprofessional and she can get punished for it. Can I give you my number? Sure. No harm in that. Now can I have yours? You crafty son of a bitch. Similar story. Years ago, I was cashiering at an arts and crafts store. 2 guys my age came in and were buying fabric paint and t-shirts. I recommended that they get the cardboard t-shirt inserts to make painting on the shirts easier. Several hours later, one of them came back through my line, and all he was buying was a rather expensive pen. I looked up at him and said, "Just the pen?" He responded with, "Well, I was hoping I could use it to write down your number." Smooth as FCK. We dated for about 6 months. 7th grade. Went to my very first football game with my best friend. 2 cute boys sat by us. We recognized them as being some SISI 8th grade boys in our engineering class. James and Hunter. Before the game starts, they come over and sit by us and we all talk for a bit. Finally James scoots really close to me and leans in. He asks, "Hey, did you see the fireworks last night?" Fireworks? There were fireworks that I didn't know about? For a second I felt like such a loser. So I said no, I didn't. He gets so excited. Oh man, it was awesome. They were all like. He starts making big explosion sounds and arm movements, and then he used the arm movements to put his arm around my shoulder. It sounds so stupid now, but by FCK it was so awesome when it happened to me. We went on like 6 middle school dates and did late engineering homework together every morning before school. It was great. You were the tall brunette with the near perfect body that farted in the Trader Joe's bread section last night. I was the tall guy next to you that looked over and asked, "Was that you?" You quickly replied, "No, wasn't me." You almost seemed insulted, I would ask. As the stink grew, you continued to deny your flatulence, but it was evident. I tried to get rid of the stench by waving 2 loaves of ciabatta bread. You proceeded to storm off in an angry manner. You are beautiful even if you are a liar and fart like a Clydesdale. I'd love to meet up sometime. I met my husband in a BDSM club. He was spanking me and said, "Your ass looks a little sore." I have an ice pack back at my house. Been married for 4 years in November. Oh. I wasn't interested in my now husband at first. Not my type. He hung out in a group of people, and I had been rejecting his hints for a while. One night we were all supposed to go to a movie and he called everyone else in the group and told them not to come. So when they showed up at my door to pick me up, there was only him and his 12-year-old brother, who he ended up having to babysit. And he said, "Everyone cancelled. Want to go see a movie with me?" We had that one date. And one more. And then I asked him to marry me. We've been married 22 years. 2 dates then marriage? Jesus. That's fast. Hey. Would you like to get a drink sometime? Apostrophe. That quiet confidence is smooth. And the lack of pressure made the whole thing that much more enjoyable. Careful. The lack of pressure can lead to an increase in volume, as well as a decrease in temperature and number of moles. We weren't dating at the time, but me and my now girlfriend used to work at a grocery store together. One day when I finished up work, I went through her line to pay for something to eat and she was visibly upset over something. I asked for her phone, and I put my number in it and told her she could text or call me if she needed to talk to someone after her shift. About 2 years after that we started dating, and we'll hit 5 years together later this year. I took an honors biology seminar on genetics when I was an undergrad. First day of class, the prof tossed out a dozen papers on the table which were write-ups of famous discoveries in genetics and told us to pick a paper, pair up, review it and present it to the class. Good-looking guy next to me leans over and asks which one I'm interested in. I said I thought the Mendel paper would be interesting. It happened to be the furthest paper from us. As soon as the prof stopped talking, the guy who'd asked me then, with split-second reflexes, lunges across the seminar tables to grab that Mendel article. Then he asked me if I'd be his partner. How could I say no?